Well, I suppose to look at me, you think I've been a Boy Scout all my life, but that's not the case. I've had many occupations. In fact, I was once offered 2 jobs in a single week. One is assistant butcher, a little butcher shop up on North Main Street, Brigham City, Utah. The other is apprentice mortician, Felt Mortuary, just behind the Tabernacle, same town. I chose the butchering job. I thought I could cut into that meat with a little more abandon. And soon I was under the instruction of a master butcher. He taught me everything you need to know, how to quarter a beast, how to break the quarters into joints, how to cut off the different types of meat, and identify them and order them and price them and pack them. But as the weeks went on, it occurred to me that he assumed that the information he was imparting to me was sufficient remuneration for my service. You know what I mean? Yeah, he wasn't paying me. Now, I had taken the job because I wanted a double-barrel side-by-side, 12-gauge Stevens Savage shotgun. And I knew the business selling them was not going to part for it for information or knowledge. They were going to want cash money. So I've been casting about, looking for another butcher who might need an assistant. Truth is, I found one, Rexburg, Idaho. And so I put in with Big Jon Darington. How many heard of Big John? Lives just west of Shelley there? That's right. I knew you would. Many do. Anyway, Big John ran a butcher shop downtown Rexburg, and I decided to go and work for him for pay. Well, he was a master too, and it wasn't long before I was learning great things. And I say Big John, John was a big man. In fact, I seen him carry a whole beef, a whole cow on his back. Oh, you don't believe me, do you? Well, I'll tell you how I used to do that. We'd walk up into the refrigerator car. I position a half a beef. John put out his leg. He'd roll a half a beef right up here on one shoulder, just like that. And then he'd go around like this, put out his leg. He'd pull up the other half. Now, what's 2 halves of beef? It's a whole beef. Whole beef on his back. He'd walk down out of the refrigerator car. We'd load it into the truck and take it back to the butcher's shop where we'd cut it up. Yep, John was a big man. He was a strong man. Now, I don't want to say that he was a redneck, but he used to wear a little baseball cap, not a brim cap, but a baseball cap. And he didn't have much hair. From where that cap ended to where his collar began, there was a considerable stretch of skin that you could not cover with your flayed palm. And let's just say it saw a lot of sun. This is important because this was back in the days of the hippies. How many of you remember the hippies? Some of you were hippies, that's right. But anyway, in those days we figured that there were 3 hippies for every 10-mile highway between Brigham City, Utah and West Yellowstone, Montana. That's if you counted the large groups congregated around broken down Volkswagen buses. Now this is important to our story. Now, as I told you, John was a good man. He was a great man. He wasn't a perfect man. He imbibed. You know what I mean. He bent the elbow. He was a drinking man, okay? Now, I myself do not drink. I'm a Mormon. How many have ever heard of the Mormon Church? Would you like to know? Oh, excuse me. Early training. Hard to get over. Anyway, we Mormons do not drink alcohol. And so I don't. But I used to attend the bar with Big Jon Darington. It was my job to steer him home after he'd been sufficiently lubricated. A man like that could do considerable damage to a small town like Rexburg, Idaho, when he was on a slide. But I'd always come in, and as I said, I didn't drink myself. I'd sit back in the corner where it was dark, just in case my bishop came in. I didn't want him to see me, but John had no such scruples. He'd sit right up to the bar on the bar stool and take in his drinks. Well, one night he's sitting there and a hippie came in. Sat right down next to him on the stool next. Now, I knew this was going nowhere because that hippie started talking to him. And sure enough, about 30 seconds into that one-way conversation, John just shot out his left cheek and grabbed the stool next to him. Now that was not much of a reach for John. Rocked himself on over there, left an empty stool between him and the hippie. But this hippie was already lubricated. He slid right on over. He just kept on talking. So John reached out and grabbed the next stool, rolled himself on over. Here comes the hippie. Here goes John, reaching on over. Yap, yap, yap. Out he reached. I watched that hippie drive that mountain of a man right up against the wall. And when there was nowhere else for him to go, he turned to that hippie and he said, "Look, buddy, lay off." And that hippie reached out and he put his arm up around Big John's neck. He pulled his face in. He says, "Brother, the world is for love." John collected that hippie by his front clothes. He shook him just enough time to get his arms a-flailing. Brought him down, flump on the floor, pinned both arms across his chest with one knee, reached in his pocket for his jackknife. You ever seen a butcher's jackknife? Yeah, you can shave with that puppy, I know. Because I watched him shave that hippie right there on that barroom floor. He took off that whole beard, took off the mustache, took off the full head of hair, cleaned out both nostrils. You know, I've never seen a madder hippie. That hippie forgot all about the world being for love. In fact, he sued Jon Darington in a court of law. Now, I bet you think in a small town like Rexburg, your local redneck would have all the advantage over your transient hippie. But I want to tell you that is not the case. I know, I attended that trial, only sober witness. And I watched that judge rule against Big Jon Darington. In fact, he fined him $2.50 for practicing barbering without a license. No, this is true.